Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are going to just give everybody a minute or two to get logged in to the webinar, and then we will get started. Hello and welcome to the TUFIN webinar today. We are just going to give everybody another minute or so to get logged in. I see there's people still coming in, so just hold tight. We'll get started in just a minute. Okay, so hello and welcome to the TUFIN case study webinar today, moving network operations into the future with RWE, excuse me. I have Ralph Buchroth with me here today, and Ralph is the team lead for IT infrastructure and provider management at RWE. My name is Karen Crowley. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at TUFIN, and I will moderate this webinar. Just a few housekeeping items. All your lines will be muted, and if you have any questions, please enter them into the question box, and we will answer questions at the end of the webinar. So I'd like to welcome Ralph here today, and it's our pleasure to have him, and we're really excited to have him speaking to us all today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Karen, and thanks a lot for the invite, and I wish everyone a good day. Even that we have a pretty stormy day here in Germany.
Oh, yeah. Nice here in Boston today. So, we've invited Ralph here to answer a few questions about RWE's challenges that they had to gain visibility and speed up the change process, improve their security, meet some very stringent internal audit requirements, and adopt a cloud-first strategy. And as I said, we'll leave time at the end for Q&A. So let's get started. One other item, there is a download available on the webinar it's an RWE case study if anyone's interested in taking a look at that. So Ralph, why don't we get started for those on the call that are not familiar with RWE? Can you give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm working for RWE Supply and Trading. This is one of RWE's opcos and is doing the trading business for complete RWE. So we have our headquarters here in Essen, and we have the largest energy trading floor in Europe. So it's a center of excellence here for energy trading. We have around 1,300 employees coming from over 37 countries. And our network has additional sites and subsidiaries in Europe, Asia, and the USA. So we have sites in New York, Swindon, London, Den Bosch, Essen, Prague, Mumbai, Singapore, Jakarta. So we are following the sun with our 24/7 trading. So next, so there's already the next slide. So we have several analysts, including 5 meteorologists, to ensure that our traders have a broad and fundamental understanding of the markets. And we have the meteorologists to forecast wind and solar power volumes for the next minutes, hours, and also for days. And we translate our market perspective into our trading strategies, our investment portfolio, and our asset optimization business. So in 2015, we traded power, gas, coal, oil, CO2 certificates, liquid and biofuels, and metals all over the world. So yeah, that's a rough overview of RWE supply and trading.
Terrific, thank you. So one of the reasons we're really excited to have Ralph speak with us today is that RWE has really encompassed the network security policy management and automation journey, beginning with having really very little visibility into their network change process to gaining control, monitoring and automating changes, and being able to prove compliance, and really moving towards automating application connectivity in the cloud. So, our purpose here is to have Ralph talk, but I just want to mention for those that are not familiar with TUFIN, just take a brief moment to give context to the products that Ralph will be referring to, that help them accomplish their goals. So TUFIN takes a security policy-based approach to gaining visibility across the entire multi-vendor, heterogeneous, and hybrid cloud network to improve operational workflows and application connectivity. And TUFIN has some of the most sophisticated automation built into our product suite. And the suite is composed of Secure Track, which provides visibility and monitoring of security and compliance, Secure Change to improve the change process and begin to automate, and Secure App for application change design and connectivity and automation. We also have a rich set of APIs that allow you to leverage your investment in your existing products within your infrastructure. So just to get Ralph started here, when you think back to when you started with TUFIN, what were some of the motivations that were behind, working with TUFIN?
Yeah, so in 2013, our security devices were completely managed by a third-party provider, and it was a case that we really had no view of the configuration of the firewalls and the setup and also the implemented changes. It resulted in a pretty bad user experience because a lot of changes took pretty long time. We had a high redo rate, so we were pretty unhappy with the as-is status. And also our change process was completely based on email and Excel sheets, which is also pretty prone to errors because, as everyone knows, in an email you are pretty informal, and therefore lots of changes were not configured as they have been meant. So our motivation was then to get a visibility of firewall configurations and how policy changes were made. We wanted to replace our email approval process. We also needed to prepare to pass our internal audits, which we have at least every 2 years, but we already had it now on a yearly basis. Yeah, we needed to improve the change process, also the communication and workflows for that process, and we wanted to eliminate the change configuration errors and the redo rate, and also improve security posture. So that's the motivation.
Perfect, thank you. So I think one of your first steps was really to gain visibility into the network. Can you talk about why this was critical and how TUFIN was able to help you with that?
Yeah, so the point was, as I said, with the new provider, and we had the feeling that the provider had no knowledge about our network, even that they also managed the other towers, but these towers were not speaking to each other, as most of you perhaps know. And therefore, we knew what is behind our firewalls, how our networks worked, and we also saw that nothing was configured, or that nothing worked as we would like have to it working. And therefore, we decided to bring the Secure Track in place to get a visibility of the as-is status and also get visibility of everything that is changed. So in the next slide, there's one of the key features. So this is the policy browser, and Secure Change is showing you all the policies that are on the firewall now. It also gives you a hint where do you have hits, when was it last used. So this was also pretty good tool for us to see if rules are implemented as it was desired by us, because if you don't have any hits on the rules, there was something wrong. Also, another feature was very important for us. That's on the next slide. It is the comparison tab. So here you see all the revisions of a firewall, and you see the changes that were done to that firewall. You would also have the ability to see the network interfaces, the routing tables, the complete configuration. And with all these information at hand, we found also a lot of errors that were configured on that firewall. For example, wrong network objects. So these objects were referring to a network that was completely configured different, because it was a copy-paste error. And yeah, we found lots of these errors with Secure Track. So it really helped us to give us the visibility of our firewalls, and it also helped us to give our management the visibility that there's something odd. And in the end, this tool helped us to insource the firewall management after 1 year.
Terrific. I know one of the errors that many find in the product is unused or shadowed rules. Was that one of the? Were you able to see those as well?
Yeah, that was in another stage where we had a big project for firewall cleanup. So we condensed around 10,000 firewall rules to at least 900. And for this, the information of shadowed rules and also last hit was crucial, because to achieve that, we set up new rules in front of the old ones that should be replaced, and just put a date on it, and you then could calculate backwards if there were hits or not. So that was really the key feature, to condense our complete firewall rule set to a much more handy rule set that is now fully readable. So we also changed our policy that all rules must be set up on group objects, and these group objects need to be completely readable, so that we now have firewall rule sets where you can read what they are doing. And for that, Secure Track was the tool. Without it, I think it wouldn't be possible to do it in such a short way. So I needed around 4 months for that.
Terrific. Thank you.
Incident.
That's the best. So I think, moving past Secure Track, you were able to gain a lot of visibility, do some basic monitoring, and it sounds like your next motivation was that you had an audit coming up, and you have a very stringent audit process. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So pretty fast after we took over the services ourselves, we got a network audit, and therefore our next step was to streamline the change process and replace email approvals in the order to prepare for the audit. And also our network operations team started evaluating Secure Change for this. And shortly after that, we deployed Secure Change and set up our own workflows, imported 500 existing requests. And yeah, with this we were ready for the next audit, which was then done within 1 or 2 days, where the auditors were on site and we were just going through Secure Change, and then in Secure Track the policy browser, where the changes were matched to the rules. So that was a pretty good experience for us, and it really helps us now also for the last audit we had. That was even done faster than the audit before, because everything was completely completely seen in the policy browser and mapped, and we now have a pretty fine rule set or rule base.
That's great. And how long was the audit taking you before? Were you able to perform your audit very well?
So the very first audit was, I think I spent several days, at least weeks, with the guys here, and we tried to map the changes done with our third-party provider, to map them to firewall rules, what was nearly impossible. As I said, at that stage we also had 10,000 rules, and it was nearly undoable. And in the end, with implementing secure change, having secure track at hand, and then the condensing of rules, we are now on a very good track here.
Yeah, that sounds like it must have been painful. So you implemented secure change. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So with secure change, I took some time for myself to go through the different workflows, and set up workflows for specific areas and for specific requests. And after having those set up, I presented it to the other teams that are needed for our process, like our security guys who do the approvals, our implementation guys who do the implementation, and also at the end the requesters who needed to start a change. And that all in the end worked pretty well out. And we now head for the next steps.
And you talked a little bit about, you can automatically do some of those changes now with secure change.
Yeah, so that's the goal, that we get some more automation. So that's one of our visions, that we will have changes that can be deployed automatically, also with an automated approval process. And for the automation of the approval process, we are basing on the unified security policy from TUFIN, so that is seen on the next slide. Yeah, so there you can define communication by your zones, not by your IP addresses. So you have to find out which zones you have in your network, and then start to set up these metrics to see what do you want to allow, what do you need to block. What needs to be approved definitely, what is an easy part, and after you set up these zone metrics, you then put the IP addresses to the zones, and in secure change we now get an estimation for our unified policy, and for our audit team this is really a very good view on a change. So now they have a chance to understand the risk of a change, additionally to the risk that is given by TUFIN anyhow. But this unified security policy is really for them very, very helpful, and it is speeding up the approval process also by hours. So now approvals are given pretty fast, and therefore also the implementation can start much faster. So it is really helpful for us.
Great. And I know we don't show it here, but if you go into those zones and you click into those zones, you can actually see what rules are, attached to that zone, correct?
Yes. You can drill into these zones or into the communication you have there, and it will show you what is allowed, what not. You could also give these information to the guys who are opening a change, so that they can directly see if it is something that should be achieved pretty easy, or if they have a request that will need a pretty hard approval, like for example providing service to the internet. That is something that is not approved within an iBlink. There other processes will follow. So that's something they can see also.
Terrific, thank you. And we talked a little bit, your network and what that looks like. So you have a complex network, you're working a heterogeneous multi-vendor network, and then you were adding, I believe, AWS groups into that. Can you talk a little bit about what your infrastructure looks like and what?
Yeah, sure. So we have a heterogeneous environment. So we have Cisco ASOS in place, we have Juniper SSGs in place, we have Palo Alto next generation firewalls here. We took over services from different providers already, and so that is already a pretty complex setup. And additionally, we are now moving into the cloud. And we started with around 1,200 on-premise services, and we are now migrating more and more into the cloud. So currently we have 300 AWS instances and around 20 firewall clusters. So it's trading business, and that needs to be very agile, and at the same time it needs to be secured as much as possible. Because it's also a banking license here, and therefore you have to fulfill lots of standards. So complexity is pretty high.
Right, and with that complexity, how is your team, what are the challenges that your team is facing?
Yeah, so the challenges are that we have a complete environment for our application guys, so-called DevOps. So these guys have the goal to bring application as fast as possible to the business. So the buzzwords are time to market and agility, and they just want to get everything done. And our security guys have the challenge to approve these changes, what these guys want, and they really want everything. And we, as the network guys, need to understand both sides and understand how the DevOps need their access, and I also need to understand which security implications need to be taken into account and which perhaps not. So for our team, we are in the middle of both sides, and we needed a tool that is helping us here, and I think we found it now.
We like to hear that. So you talked about...
Yeah, just go on, sorry.
That's okay. You talked about, your cloud-first strategy. So just a little background of why how the cloud-first strategies come up and, what that's meant.
Yeah, sure. So our senior management gave out the strategy to go cloud-first. This means all new applications need to go to the cloud if somehow possible, and also all existing applications needed to go into the cloud if that's feasible. And the advantage for the cloud usage is that it has pretty good scalability. It's very easy to use, and it supports the business agility. So that were the drivers for the management to go into the cloud, or the main drivers.
And so with that, I think you talked a little bit about it, but it certainly brought some challenges to your team.
Yes, the challenges were really, really high, because we now got a very high number of requests for changes, and that was really difficult to handle, not only for our network guys, but also for the security guys. Additionally, the security settings in the cloud were not integrated into any processes we had. And we also have seen that it is very difficult to find a common language between the app developers and the security guys and the network guys. So that was really, really a big challenge for us. So for example, the number of firewall changes increased to more than 100 complex changes instead of perhaps 10 or 15 per month. And that was really hard to tackle, not only for us.
So I know you moved to the next product in the orchestration suite, Secure App. And so what is that? Can you talk a little bit about the adoption of that and what it's enabled you to do to meet those challenges?
So the challenge we had and we faced, so we tried to tackle it in the first days with our normal process, and it took about 2 to 3 people per day working on these requests, and therefore we started our phase 3 to give Secure App a try. So we already evaluated it and had seen, okay, that could really help us. So to give you a background, so we have around 200 different applications for our business, and we needed a full end-to-end application view using detailed communication matrices, not only for us, but also for the security guys. And in the end, it is also very helpful for the development guys, because what we also found out, no one who is developing an application really knew all the communications they needed. And yeah, with the right level of detail and usability for the different groups, we wanted to tackle this. And this means that the application developers have application-based view of all rules, so they know what is already implemented and what they need to request. Our security guys can easily assess the risk with the USP, and our network solution engineers have all details on hand to implement a change as fast as possible. And we want that standard requests will be automatically deployed, so that's something for the future, and that we are only dealing with special requests anymore. And another point is that we wanted to have a solution for on-premise and cloud environments, and so not two tools. Yeah, and in the end, or in the very end, all these processes needed to be fully auditable. So that was a goal for us. And we see that Secure App is providing these goals for us, and is from our point of view really helping us here. So on the next slide, so it really improves the communication throughout all teams, because in Secure App we now have a language that everyone understands. So here you have an example where you see some communications put together by an application guy, and if they need to connect to something like, for example, a RAC cluster, they just click a button, which means new connection to existing application, and then they get a drop-down menu where they can search for RAC, and then they see all the RAC cluster environments we have, and they just click them together. So means they do not need to know the IP addresses anymore, or all IP addresses, and they do not need to know the ports and services anymore, because everything is already configured and they just click it together. So that has several advantages. So the developers do not need to know all these details. For the implementers, we know the rule is complete, because every application interface seen here is based on an existing rule that will never be changed. So means everyone who is connecting to the rule will just be put into the source address field. And also for our security guys, they can go now to an application and get directly a full view of all communications that are present. So now they can see if someone needs access to a pretty secure database, and at the same time they have full access to the internet and access to the mail servers. It should be something they would reject, because now they see everything. In the later days, just getting an Excel sheet where someone says, okay, I need access to the SMTP service, done. So 2 IPs, that's it. Nobody knew where these IPs belong to, and it was pretty hard to find that out. And now everything is directly at hand and in real time, because that is what is needed.
Terrific. And I know in just a lot of organizations struggle with DevOps as sort of outside the process. How did you bring that into the fold and bring them on board with your process?
Yeah, that was also a process that took me around half a year. So I identified all the people for specific applications. So if a request came in, so a normal standard request through Secure Change, I try to find out who is responsible for the destination first to set up the standard interfaces, and on the second base I checked who is responsible for the source, and then I showed them how Secure App is working, how to use it, made some just some presentations, screen presentations for them, and a short presentation to read. With these things and going through all the application guys, it took me around 3 to 4 months to onboard everyone, and the guys who were already onboarded then trained their colleagues, and now in the end I think our application guys are pretty motivated and pretty good trained how to use it, because it has a big benefit for them, or 2 big benefits. Benefit 1 is they see everything they have, so they now have a full documentation and not the typical part if you ask someone how is your application designed, you normally get a Visio from 2005, and now they can just take a screenshot here. And the second benefit is a change is implemented now in very short time, because it's all on standard rules, and that really fastens the process.
That's terrific. You can make everybody happy. I think you talked a little bit about, some of the advantages here and what you've been able to do. I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, so I think one more thing is that that every change is tracked in Secure App in the History tab, which is also pretty important, because it could be, and I can assure you it happened or happens, that someone is deleting connections because he is cleaning up, and another guy is needing exactly these connections. And if they complain, hey, why is it not working? What did you do? You just send over the history for that part, and you can directly tell them, okay, train your colleague, and then everything's fine. And yeah, it's then not happening again in best case. Yeah, and as what I said, the common language now for the application owner, security team, network teams, and also the auditors are pretty happy with it, because they also now see what is possible for a specific application. And everything, as I said, is mapped then in Secure Track and the policy browser.
That's terrific. You really sounds like you've gained some great benefits from working with TwoFin, and if you want to highlight any of those.
Yeah, so from my point of view, it's really paying off. So as I said, when we started, we needed 2 to 3 people to tackle all the cloud changes. Now it's half a day, one guy, and the time for a change was reduced from 6 to 8 days to now 2 days. So that is guaranteed, as long as it is a standard change. And normally it's processed within half a day. And we even managed to go through the complete process within 8 minutes in an emergency case. So in cloud, it's also a pretty nice thing. Instead of just stopping a server, they deleted all their servers. And a few minutes later, they called us and told us, hey, we have deleted 15 servers accidentally, but it's not a problem. We set up 15 new. So yeah, in a normal way, I think that would have meant death for that application for the next few weeks. But here it was pretty easy, because everything was built on groups, and we just filled the groups with the new 15 servers, and everything was fine on our side. So also something we achieved within 15 minutes. Another benefit is that we have now the complete visibility of our network security changes. Yeah, we pass our audits pretty fast with it. The security posture is tightened because we just need to focus on high-level risks. And this all fully supports our agility and productivity, and we are pretty happy with that. And the complete complexity is also decreased, because we now have a single pane of glass, and can monitor everything with TwoFin. So we also see our AWS changes there, our next generation firewalls, and nearly everything we need.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Apologies, a little error in that slide. So, we really refer back here to the maturity model that we spoke about in the beginning. And, RWE has come a long way from the initial stages where you were at in not being able to have visibility to really bringing DevOps into the fold and automating those changes. How has that prepared you for the future, and what do you see going forward? So
for the future, as I said, so we want even enhance the agility more with getting automation in place. So we want to have automated change approval for low risk changes, and then we want to have a fully automated deployment for these firewall routes, which would then mean that someone puts in a low-risk change that is fully automated approved and deployed, could be achieved within a few minutes. We also want to deploy our AWS security group changes through Tufin. And in the end, we would like to utilize the AWS tags instead of IP addresses, because IP addresses can change in an eye blink there, and tags will stay, like an application tag or something like that. So we want to increase the deployment of secure app even more, and that needs to be done through giving more features to the application guys, for example, like an application path discovery, so they can directly see what their application needs by putting in just the source and the destination, and Tufin tries to find out through checking the logs, I think, what application is used there. And we want to model even more services. So currently we have modeled lots of standard services, and now we could also go to the way to put in the special services, or the exemption services. And that will perhaps result, or should result, in a deployment of a transparent self-service. So means in best case, I can really put in my service catalog. Someone needs more access, for example, because he's a developer or he's an Oracle guy. He can then just click it through the normal ServiceNow or whatever, and these changes are then sent to the secure change process and is fully approved and automatically deployed. And that would really make our whole lives much easier, because you could then also set up a much more granularly security policy. So block most of the services, and everyone has to just click together what they need. And that would ease our lives. And another point is also that the integration of platform as a service needs somehow to be taken into account, because our developers already told us they do not want to maintain virtual servers anymore. They just want to have platforms where they can set up their services, and they want to process and provide data, nothing else. So these are the points that are upcoming for the future for us.
Terrific. And do you see that, taking that policy-based approach has allowed you to, if something new comes down the road, it will allow you to be able to adopt new technologies faster?
Yeah, definitely. So without these tools, it would be a nightmare to go into the cloud. So if you do not have a pretty good strategy, if you do a data center extension and put in all your applications into the cloud on a pretty fast level, you need to know what you are doing. You need to standardize nearly everything. Standardize your firewall rules, standardize the access requests. Make as much standards as possible, because in best case, everyone just needs standard rules that are pre-configured, and this really fastens all the processes. And I think with Tufin we found a tool to orchestrate all these stuff now.
Terrific. So, RWE has used the Tufin orchestration suite to meet some really progressive goals, and they continue to push forward with automation. And Ralph, we really want to thank you for sharing your story with us today. We will have time for questions, so if you do have questions, please type them into your box. The value that Tufin brings is that we enable enterprise organizations to really take a policy-driven and software-defined security approach to provide visibility, ensure continuous compliance, and enable application connectivity, which allows organizations to make changes in minutes instead of days, as we've heard from Ralph here today, improve security, and enhance the agility of your business. And with that, we have time for questions, so please do type them in if you have any. As well as I want to mention that the RWE case study is available for download if you're interested in downloading that. And so we'll take a few questions. So one question I have is that does the software support multi-tenant? And yes, it does. And if you'd like more detail on that, we can certainly provide you with more detail. I think that One of the questions also I see is, Ralph, being in a technical role, how does your management view this solution, and how did you get them to invest?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So when we raised the request, we directly had management attention. So what I told them was, okay, come over to my desk. I have an evaluation license for Secure App, and I already modeled our 10 most important interfaces here, for example, for our databases and for some core services. And then I showed them how two also pretty important applications are connected, how the interface is working, how easy it is to click the things together, and also how it is rolled out, that it is matching existing firewall rules throughout our environment, that you just need to extend groups, or not extend, it's wrong, that you just add a member to an existing group and push that then on the firewalls, and afterwards everything's running and you had a full view. So they were impressed by the view they got, so that they really could see, okay, this as is setup is nearly not given to any application currently in a live view. So as I said, normally all the documentation is pretty old, and now you have it up to date, and you also could read the firewall rule. So it was first time that they saw, okay, firewall rule matches to the request. Wow, great, I can read that. I could be a technical guy. Yes, and that really helped us.
Terrific. So one of the questions was, the overall time spent to implement TUFIN, and I think that that might be a little difficult to actually answer, because it is, you do take a phased approach. And I know you started in 2013 with SecureTrack, and I don't know if you have any commentary on that, and if how long it took you to realize some benefit from SecureTrack and along the way.
So SecureTrack was pretty fast, because we had a lot of issues with changes that were requested and implemented by the provider, and the provider never found the issues. And with SecureTrack, we directly saw, okay, there's a rule that is attached to the wrong firewall, to the wrong interface. The rule objects did not match. The change was just not implemented. It was told us that it is implemented, but we found it on no firewall. So that was pretty fast. And what I said, after a few of these examples, we just went to our ISO, told them, hey, here we have the feeling that they do not know what they are doing, and from our point of view, we need to change the driver here. And that was done then after a pretty short time. So benefit, or it was pretty fast beneficial. If you know what you need, this is really beneficial. So if you just purchase it and it runs in the background, I don't know how much it will help, but if you have issues and you have no visibility, but you know your network and have some guys with knowledge, it's really helpful, or more than helpful.
And we talk about how, that is really the first phase, is gaining that visibility. So you need to have that visibility and have that cleanup done in order to be able to begin to automate some of the rest of your processes and be able to have that be effective. So one question around automation that we have is, do the business owners still have, adequate control over their universe?
The business owners. So normally the business owners, so here in our West, the complete application landscape is is maintained by our development guys. They talk to the business owners, but normally the business owner do not have a look here in our complete change process. The business owner just knows, okay, my service that I need is now provided. I'm happy. That's it. And if it's not provided, they are coming directly to us and are complaining. So in our organization, the business owner is too far away from the technical part. But I know in other divisions it's different. But here's another layer and we have a complete application layer in here with application guides.
Great. I think we have about time for one or two more questions. One question is, when you evaluated TUFIN, did you look at other tools, and what was your reasoning for selecting TUFIN?
So for the first guess, we took TUFIN because one of our employees knew TUFIN and was pretty happy with it, and that was the reason why we just picked TUFIN. So there's not much on the market from our point of view. So there are perhaps one or two other providers, and that's it. And TUFIN was known, and therefore we took it, and we were happy with it. And in the complete process, we also had one of the competitors here, and so they were not able to convince us yet to use the other tool.
Great, thank you. So one last question is looking through around the cloud visibility and the security configurations that are changing. And the question was if you can track, are you tracking instances, tags, and security groups? Are you looking at the security groups as well?
Yeah, we are also looking at the security groups. So currently, we also have a project in place where all the existing security groups are reviewed. That's done with a policy browser from SecureTrack, and changes to the security groups are done via Secure Change currently. So not in Secure App, not yet, but that will follow if our project with Secure Change is successful.
Perfect. Well, I think we are at our 45-minute mark, so really want to say a huge thank you to Ralph for presenting with us today and telling his story. And if we did not get to your questions, we will follow up with you after the webinar is over. Thank you, and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a good day then.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.